That is right. We are back for another episode of WYD Rocks. My name is Dario Mobini. Welcome to my guest and my colleague and friend and co-host. And goodness, I can give you a couple more titles while we're at it. Deacon Pedro from WYDCentral.org. We are so blessed to be here on another episode, recapping all things WYD as we prepare for Lisbon 2023. Welcome.
Welcome. And we are, for those that maybe did not tune in last time, we are now less than 100 days.
Yes, it is coming fast.
Coming fast, so fast that the Pope has put out another video. Is that unusual, Dario? Usually he does like the one video. I mean, I guess everything's new with social media, but I don't think he's ever done more than one video for World Youth Day before.
No, and you know what? I think it's great because you're looking at a post-pandemic period where internet was used, you know, the web was used, right? And we're using technology much more to bring about this new evangelization. So the fact that the Holy Father wants to reach out again and say another message is just very encouraging. I'm very encouraged by the fact that the Holy Father is saying, look, I know I'm not in tune with this kind of stuff, but I just want to say hi.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's check out this
or is it that on the plane back from Hungary, somebody said to him, you know what, you shouldn't have said that maybe you're not going to be there. Maybe you should make a video.
You know what? That could be. I mean, that could be. Maybe one of his personal secretaries said, Holy Father, you did it again. I know you like to say things off the cuff, but dude, come on.
Yeah.
You can't tell them that you don't think you're going to be there. You need to tell them you're there. I mean, that's the one thing. But let's check out this video.
It's also an unusual message. Well, I guess we're going to play it, right? So I won't give it away. But it's an not unusual, but an interesting message that it's kind of encouraging them to do something that maybe they would not be expecting.
Exactly. And I think, it's quite fitting that this is a period of time that the Holy Father is also reminding people that, hey, look, now that we get closer, I'm going to be the one sending you the catechesis. Like, I love the fact that we get to go through the catechesis and we get to remind people through our show, but then we have the stuff that's on the website on Lisboa2023.org. And now here comes the Holy Father adding a little bit more, flavor, I guess you could call it, to this great thing. Let's get this video up.
Let's listen to it.
And then let's listen to it. And then we can give a couple insight viewpoints on it. And then, see where it leads us from there. All right, here we go. Here is the video. Thanks to Vatican Media and their work. And of course, the Lisboa 2023 website. Here's the video without any, let me get this out of the way.
And for those just listening to the podcast, it's in Spanish, but it's subtitled in English, so you can watch the video.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Queridos jóvenes, estamos acercándonos, aunque falta todavía varios meses, a la Jornada de la Juventud. Y ya hay 400.000 jóvenes inscriptos. A mí me llama la atención y me alegra. Tantos jóvenes vienen.
Wait a second. This looks like the video. Right video. I was going to say, this is the video from the last time.
This is the last one. Oops.
But you know what? It's all good. You know what? I have to. So we posted this video on our official worldyouth.com website. It is shot the very similar way.
Yeah.
Like if it was on the phone, and it is the same spot. I mean, goodness, right? But it's shot like a reel. So let's watch this. And this is the video itself, but it starts with the same thing, dear young people. And then here we go. So I'm going to make this bigger. And
ustedes se están preparando para la Jornada Mundial de la Juventud. Faltan 3 meses. Me imagino las cosas que tendrán en la cabeza. ¿Cómo lo van a hacer? ¿Cómo van a pedir la licencia del trabajo, del estudio? ¿Cómo van a hacer para lograr lo que les falta para el pasaje? Tantas preocupaciones, pero siempre mirando ese horizonte, esa ilusión. Es una ilusión. Participar de la jornada es una cosa linda y uno, cuando lo siente, tiene la ilusión de participar allí. Prepárense con esa ilusión. Pongan esperanza allí. Pongan esperanza. Porque se crece mucho en una jornada así. Nosotros no nos damos cuenta. Pero quedan las cosas dentro, quedan los valores que hemos encontrado dentro, las relaciones que hemos tenido con otros jóvenes de otros países, los encuentros, todo queda dentro. Y sobre todo ver la fuerza juvenil, que la Iglesia tiene fuerza de joven. Así que adelante. Queridos jóvenes, ustedes
Oh,
se
there you
están
go.
preparando.
There's the video, and let me make sure that we take this off. But yeah, there's the video of the Holy Father, Pope Francis, describing 3 months from now we'll be gathering together, and there's a lot of worries. You got a lot of some students are taking exams, and some people are still doing the fundraisers. I love how he
Yeah,
puts
I
his
know,
hand
I
up.
know.
Hey, I know some of you guys are worried about this, about your
Yeah, you're
trip, but don't
still
worry.
trying to raise money to buy your plane tickets. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's expensive. But I love his words about like how impactful and how memorable this experience will be. This encounter that you're going to have with the risen Lord, with the universal church gathered together in Lisbon. And it's quite an amazing thought that the Holy Father is reminding us of this impact, this gathering that's going to be an eye opener, kind of like what we talked about in the last show, with the whole thing about being awake, or wake up, and maybe this is the wake up call that we need, and again, the Holy Father loves to add in his spin, and you can tell that this was shot on a phone, so it wasn't like, it's not like he had a camera crew show up, and this is what I love about this kind of new wave of media, where we're using the technologies that's unfiltered, unedited, unscripted, just raw emotions and feelings. Something that I hope we get to, give to all of you the experience at World Youth Day in Lisbon if you're unable to go. But if you go, I would love to hear your stories, and I'm sure all of us would love to hear your stories, raw, unedited, unfiltered, posted on social media, shared with the whole world with the hashtag Lisboa 2023, which is the official hashtag for the World Youth Days, right? But there you go. There's an example of Pope Francis shooting a video with his own phone. I don't know if it's his phone.
It's not his own
Oh,
phone.
yeah,
but
of course not.
Cuff.
Yeah, off the cuff. What are your thoughts of his words?
Well, I think that it does sound off the cuff. I love the grandparent. He's not the first time that he talks about grandparents and elders.
No.
And we've talked about that in this show as well. I love the idea of traveling to World Youth Day with a grandparent. Maybe that's the future of World Youth Day, that everybody goes with, because the grandparents can afford the plane ticket. So maybe the grandparents pay for the young person to go. That's a great partnership. And then you bring the grandparent. The grandparent doesn't have to do all the walking. They can do some of the walking, but they can support each other, and that's a great way to grow in faith together, I think.
Absolutely. And I think that this message that Pope Francis is sharing with us really quite fits well with our last review of the catechesis that we're about to cover, which is meeting number 9.
Yeah.
The whole rise up and follow the risen Lord. But we're not doing it alone. And that's the beauty of the communion of saints, right?
Yeah,
that we're
that's it.
not alone, but that we are doing it as a community. Young people together in their parishes are gathering together with those of the whole universal church in the local level, from the diocese to the world, gathering in Lisbon. And that will be a very special occasion, a momentous occasion, where we are, we've been preparing and longing and dreaming. And here we are gathered together. And it kind of reminds me of that music video that they shot for the theme song, where you see an intergenerational gathering. And it is, because we are an extension of our communities.
Yep.
As people who will be traveling to Lisbon, you are an extension of your community. And when you go, you're not going alone. You are going with their prayers that are accompanying you on this journey. And then you will be joining in others praying for those people who have not been able to go, but you are still accompanying them in your thoughts and prayers as you journey in this experience of this encounter. Yeah. It's a beautiful opportunity.
It is. And in a way, all these preparatory meetings that we've been talking about, today we're going to talk about the last one, they're preparing you to go to World Youth Day, but they're also preparing you to continue in your faith journey when you come back. And in some ways, I don't think anybody's ever done that, but it's like you need preparatory meetings or sessions to follow up after World Youth Day when you come back. So like today, we're going to talk about rise up and follow the risen Jesus. That's not just to prepare you for World Youth Day. That's like to prepare you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
When you come back from World Youth Day, how are you following Jesus in your own community? Because ultimately that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So here we are, meeting number 9.
And we're using the leader's guide today. So that
Yes.
way, for those of you guys that have been following along on our podcast, whether you're following on the SoundCloud, as you now notice that we are on the SoundCloud and you can listen to our shows there, or if you're watching these on YouTube and seeing our video of because we're doing things raw, unscripted, unedited as well. Like, we love having just fun and talking about these things. But here we are using the leader's guide because we've been talking about the leader's guide for so long.
Yeah, we
Why
have.
not use it? I mean, so,
Yeah, exactly. So this gives you an idea of what the
Yes.
leader's guide looks like. So it's a little more information than the other guide. Also looks differently. So it gives you the objectives.
Yes.
It gives you some information that is relevant to the leader and like the necessary materials for this one. You need a cross, a globe, or a world map, and then there's a video here with the link this time so that you know where to find that video. And then it tells you a little bit about, kind of how to get ready. This one, as all the others, begins with some sort of activity and World Day theme song. This one will look at the theme song of Madrid, which was the theme of Madrid was firm in the faith. So, and in fact, the opening activity all has to do with kind of how to stand firm in the faith. But it's also one of the things I like about this one is that it's a good follow-up. So the previous meeting number 8, ends by sending everybody home with the homework of asking themselves, who is Jesus for you? Who is Jesus in your life? And that's going to be the gospel reading for this session. Who do people say that I am? Who do the crowd say that I am? And so again, we're reading from the Gospel of Luke. And this gospel passage, I read it a few times to try to see, it's like, does he say rise up in here somewhere? But he doesn't.
No.
So this is like the only gospel of all the meetings that the phrase rise up is not in there, but I don't think
But it
it's
is
necessary.
it is a Luke gospel because obviously, like, the theme of
100%.
World Youth Day in Lisbon is from the Gospel of Luke.
Yep. Yeah.
So the fact that he's using Gospel of Luke to describe this whole concept of like, who do you say that I am? You are the Christ. That profession is really the power of this. Come follow me. What's going to happen post? I always think
Yeah.
about this, like, were the apostles standing at this point? Were they, because most of the times they sit down and they're listening to this teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my thought. I mean, that's my take on this.
No,
possibly.
yeah, and I don't mean that's a mistake or anything. I think that it's not necessary
No,
because we've been looking at rise up and do this, rise up and do this, rise up and do that, rise up, and now, okay, so who is Jesus for you? And the text doesn't have to say rise up, because I think you're right, Dario, that the response when Peter says to Jesus, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." I mean, that is a rising up, right? That is a waking up. That is a profession of faith. So we read this gospel passage, and then, like we always do, there's going to be a reflection on it. And the way it's suggested to be done here is with 2 questions: who do the crowd say that I am, and who do you say that I am? And the activity here, which I think is kind of neat, is like that you pair them up so that each participant will answer that question to another person. So they share it in a pair, and then they switch. But when they switch, they're actually switching on one foot. So you're actually standing on one foot answering the questions, and then you're going to reflect on the idea that, like, which one was easier? Was it easier to answer the question with both feet on the ground or with one foot off the ground? Again, to highlight the fact that we need to be firm when we're standing, so there's a physical connection there. It's kind of silly, but it's kind of neat.
It's also a reminder of St. Paul, right? Who was firm in the faith, who,
Yep.
when he preached boldly, was unafraid. Even the apostles. I think of, like, Peter's profession at Pentecost, right? When he went out of the upper room and started professing, you know who Jesus is. He is the one who rose from the dead. I mean, that profession alone was firm, right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. It's a profession of faith. It's
Yeah.
like, that was Peter saying, like, that's him showing how firm he
Yeah.
was in the faith. So that's the gospel passage, and this is the reflection that we're doing. So then we continue the reflection by looking at these 2 texts One of the texts is from Benedict's homily, Pope Benedict's homily from World Youth Day Madrid 2011. Um, and then the second one is from Pope Francis from the Angelus 2018 on September 16th. So again, we're continuing as we reflect on that gospel passage. Who is Jesus for you? Who do you say is Jesus? Who do you think the people say that Jesus is? You continue reflecting through these texts, and then there's a few questions.
But before we get to that text, don't forget this. This by far for me, the World Youth Day in Madrid, the
Yep.
homily was absolutely powerful. I mean, like literally,
Yes.
everyone was on the edge of their seats because of what had occurred on the
Yeah.
vigil,
The night
and then the
before.
adoration, and then here comes the Holy Father right in the middle. Dear youth, allow me as a successor of Peter to invite you to strengthen this faith that has been handed down to you since the apostles, to place Christ, the Son of God, at the center of your lives.
Yeah.
Wow. What, I mean, you want to talk about boldness. You know, you got St. John Paul II crying out to young people, do not be afraid.
Yeah.
Open wide the doors. And here's Pope Benedict continuing this. And then, of course, if you pay attention to Pope Francis, who does the same thing in the very end of it, he says, brothers and sisters, the profession of faith in Jesus Christ cannot be limited to words, but demands to be authenticated with concrete choices and gestures, with a life characterized by a love of God, with a great life, with a life full of love of our neighbor. Wow. Wow. I just have to add those two are very congruent.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would think that at this point, if you've been doing all the preparatory meetings and really building up the group and having really powerful encounters with Christ as you meet, and powerful meetings with each other, giving the young people a good experience of church and of Jesus Christ, that they're going to naturally get to this point where they are ready to, to stand firm in the faith, to profess, to honestly, authentically have their own profession of faith. And I think that that's where we want to get.
Yes.
If they're not there yet, they will get there in Lisbon in August.
Yeah.
Definitely. So we continue reflecting on the gospel passage and continue reflecting on these texts. There's some questions. Again, what are the main challenges that are presented in the text? How do they introduce me to the face of Jesus? How are these challenges? So you continue reflecting that. And then we are at the prayer section. And this is an interesting one as well, because, I mean, you maybe have done this already, where you have a little bit of a prayer, a deeper or more involved prayer section to your meeting. Maybe it means that you move out of the church hall and go into the main church. Maybe it means that you go into the Eucharistic chapel if you have an adoration chapel in your parish, or something like that. And those are all suggestions that you can do here. If you cannot move into a different space, maybe your pastor or the priest or the deacon can actually bring the Blessed Sacrament so that you have that in your room, so that that helps create a space that is a little different. Not that you can't pray at any space, but a little different, to make a difference, that there's something different about this prayer experience.
Yeah.
And then there's, again, some suggestions here as to how to kind of lead people through prayer, through praying through those questions, through the two texts that we just listened to, and of course the gospel passages. And there's suggestions here as to how to do that. As you pray through the gospel, particularly through the gospel reading. So where it says clues, I think if you scroll up, no, the other way.
No, the other way. Sorry. Here we
Go
go.
the other way, where it says clues for pray. There it is. Clues for praying. So it actually gives you a little bit of the gospel text, and then some questions, something to think about, and that helps
Like
you pray.
Alexio.
Yeah, like kind of like Alexio, exactly. So it's helping you go deeper in the text, and helping lead you into a conversation with the Lord. And then there's a concluding song here that I think is a Taizé song.
It is a Taizé song, yeah.
I was just wondering why it was in Portuguese. But so if it's Taizé, it's probably in Latin
or French, right? You never know.
or French.
Throw
There
it
might
in
be an
French.
English version. I don't know. But it's Taizé, O Christe Domino Jesu, which means, "O Lord, my Lord Jesus, O Christ, Lord Jesus."
But But the verses are in Portuguese, but you might as well learn it at this point. I'm sorry to say that.
Might as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Learn a
you
little bit
gotta
of Portuguese.
Learn a little bit of Portuguese. I mean, there are several words that you got to start learning. You know, I love the fact that having reflected on all these wonderful, powerful passages, and the idea that you brought up about bringing the Blessed Sacrament in, I think is key here, because we have to recognize as Catholics, is Jesus who he says he is? If he is, we owe him everything. And if he is present in the Blessed Sacrament in our midst, we need to bow down and give our whole lives to him. And this is the whole mission of the apostles. They knew, having seen the resurrected Lord, they knew. Even Peter knew, right? Where Peter is approached by Jesus when he's naked on the beach, right? Twirling with seashells. I can't even imagine what that must have been for him. And then all of a sudden, here comes the risen Lord, and he's like, "Get away from me, Lord! I'm unworthy." Why? Because he knows the power that he has in his midst. But Jesus is affirming and loving and compassionate and embraces Peter where he's at. Yeah. And that's the beauty of the Gospels here,
Yeah, and
no matter where we're at, our Lord will accompany us on our journey.
Yeah, and that should be the experience of adoration, of being in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and it doesn't come immediately. But the more we do, and I hate to use the word "do," the more we experience adoration, the more it is. You know what? I've been looking at these words in Portuguese. So, being a disciple of Jesus is being firm in the faith.
Yes.
Professing that Jesus is Christ is living firm in the faith. Denying yourself is being firm in the faith. Taking your cross is
living firm in the faith. Yeah.
Losing your own life is being firm in the faith. So those are great questions or great ideas to reflect. And then the meeting continues with some sharing, the prayers. It suggested that maybe as you sing that Taizé song, maybe the young people or the participants can also pray aloud as they sing, however you wanted to organize that prayer moment to allow them to
here's another one that's very powerful too. If you have the Blessed Sacrament, think of the hemorrhaging woman who reached out to Jesus to touch, touch our Lord. Maybe process the Blessed Sacrament. Have your priest or the deacon in your parish process the Blessed Sacrament around
each person,
and have a moment of encounter.
Very powerful.
Very powerful. I know that there's communities like Shalom and a couple of other ones that do very similar experiences like this. And I got to tell you, that is amazing. It's very powerful. And both of us agree that it's something that if you can try to do that would be an amazing opportunity. An individual encounter. You have the group encounter, but then the individual encounter, and then have them reach out and even just touch the humeral veil, that of the priest who's holding, the monstrance in his hand, just to touch that, just to feel that, because then there's a spiritual connection there.
Yeah, it is, and a physical connection that you're actually doing something, and that's your physical way of professing your faith that Christ is Lord. So then we continue, and you know what? We forgot last time. We didn't talk about the final, because every session ends with a little quote from the Catechism.
Yeah, but before you get to the Catechism, I love this one, because you write, it concludes with making a solemn profession of faith. And it's not the profession of faith is, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. No, this is kind of like the renewal of baptismal promises, right? I think this is what we have to remember. Do you believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth? I do. Those words of the renewal of our baptismal promises that we do and renew our faith, right? That's the kind of profession of faith that this is calling you to do. So it's not just a recitation. Is that the proper recitation of the creed, right? Because that could be mundane. That could be just something that we just go through the emotions and just, because that's what it feels like sometimes, even at Mass. But now it's something that you will do as a group, but you will do it with a firm voice. Yeah. I do, right? Yes.
Yeah, no, you know what? This whole meeting really feels like a climax. Like we've been bringing them from meeting number 1, from meeting number 0, all the way to meeting number 9.
We had a meeting 0.
Yeah, a little bit of a climax. And then, of course, so here's the Catechism, the passage from Catechism 153. to kind of sort of bring everything to a conclusion. And then we go into the personal project, which is that sort of homework. Continue reflecting on who is Jesus for you. What does that mean? Um, how do you want to follow him? Because ultimately, that's what this meeting is about. We rise up and follow Jesus. So, what are you going to do? And that's officially how this concludes this meeting. But I mean, everybody's welcome to adapt that or customize it or do whatever makes sense. Now, the last thing I was going to mention is that there is in the leader's guide, there is it's called an annex, but I think we mentioned it earlier, like in the third meeting or the fourth meeting, that there's a penitential celebration. So the leader's guide offers a suggested penitential celebration that you can do with the young people. If you haven't done it yet, now is a good time to do something like that. And that can be maybe just dedicate a whole meeting just to do this, so that your meetings are not just about learning information. They're not just about fun activities, obviously, but there's also prayer involved. So again, is the Blessed Sacrament part of that? Do we bring the young people into the church to have a moment of prayer that's different, so that it's not just all about fun activities or all about learning, or definitely not all about just preparing logistically to go to World Youth Day?
Because I mean, those things are important,
Yes.
but the spiritual life, that's going to be the key. I mean, I even thought about the whole idea when you were saying about the penitential service. Well, how cool would it be to go to World Youth Day in a state of grace? Start out the experience in a state of grace and just be a sponge and absorb everything.
Before we go to the airport, everybody meet and everybody goes to confession.
Yes, yeah. Because you never know. God forbid.
Confession at the airport.
Yes, yes. And if you're like me living in Atlanta, you have really cool. There's the Adoration Chapel now. There's a chapel there, the Interfaith Chapel, but at corner of the Interfaith Chapel, there's actually a little veil covering the monstrance that is behind there in glass. Like you can actually expose the Blessed Sacrament and spend a little bit of time in prayer. What chapel can you find that at the airport? I mean, hopefully you're flying out of an airport. It doesn't matter which one. As long as a priest is present and there's people there and you want to celebrate a mass, go for it.
Yeah,
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Do it.
And it's very common. Yeah, it's very common during World Youth as pilgrims are traveling to World Youth Day in airports all over the place. Panama was great because there was a great little chapel in Terminal 1 that a lot of people use. But yeah, just people are having mass everywhere. And it's also very common that, like, if you wanted to do a moment of adoration and it's maybe a holy hour, an hour is great, but maybe for your group an hour is too long. If you have a priest, the priest can be listening to confessions all throughout that time of adoration. So people can be in adoration, and if they feel so, they can go and receive the sacrament of reconciliation. And that's also a nice way to kind of bring these two things together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe if you cannot process the Blessed Sacrament within the chapel where you're at and the priest is hearing confessions, maybe have a kneeler right in front of the monstrance at the altar and have the penitent, and have each individual go up and just spend a moment in front, just an individual moment.
Yeah. And that's all good. Sometimes when I'm leading adoration, I will actually I try to not give instructions so it doesn't sound like it's school, but in the reflection, try to give a little bit of instructions. Like, there's nothing you need to do at adoration. You can just sit there and just try to be present. You can sit there and listen, but absolutely you can do things. But if you want to sit on the floor, if you want to kneel, if you want to go up to the front, if you want to sit on the floor in front of the front pew, like, all those things are okay, especially if you're doing something that's for your group, that's not in some church somewhere. That's all okay. You don't have to stay in the pew. You don't have to stay kneeling. Whatever you're moved to do, because that's a natural response to Christ being present to you at that moment. So yeah, of course, if you can't bring the monstrance to people, it's okay for people to go right up, and they can go. And sometimes people go right up and they touch it.
Yeah.
They touch the base, or they touch the altar, or they kneel in front of the altar, or they sit on the floor just in front of the altar. And if you have music, that's great. If it's silence, that's also good. So there's really no way to do adoration
And obviously check in with your parish priest. I mean, he probably has a great
Yeah.
idea. Don't just
true.
go up to the parish priest and
That's
say,
true.
Father, we
That's
want to
true.
do this. And then he has a heart
Yeah,
attack
make
from the
sure whatever
request.
you're doing. Yeah, because the priest might say no music. It has to be silent. Right?
Yeah. And you know
that's
what?
his preference.
And that's still good because he knows what is best for his people, for the people that he serves, you know? Nothing against priest decisions. Remember, they're there to help you become holy. And so whatever the priest offers you, take it. You know, take every opportunity that can be provided for you. I mean, I hope that these 9 meetings, these 9 plus the 0 meetings have been enlightening to you and then have helped you understand a little bit about how Lisbon is helping us prepare for this great encounter. We'll do a follow-up meeting of like how to take about these meetings and then how do we apply them at World Youth Day. Like, you know, taking these little opportunities to recap. Remember when we were meeting in number 7 and talking about this?
Yeah.
Now here we are like walking the pilgrim path. And, you know, it made me think of like the opportunity that we have to suffer, you know, and these are opportunities that you'll have to relive
100%.
these moments
Yeah.
constantly. So we'll come back to that. And then we'll also bring up the connection of Fratelli Tutti and Laudato Si.
And the Laudato, yeah.
2 documents that Pope Francis has echoed in his pontificate that is being echoed here at Lisbon 2023. So there's a lot of great things that are coming. And I'm sure you guys are probably wondering, are you going to talk about other things? Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are.
Please feel free to send us an email or respond to this post.
Comments.
Or put it in the comments, right? Whether you're using the SoundCloud or you're listening to it through YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is that you're looking in, please let us know what you would like to hear. And we will be glad to do several shows leading up to Lisbon. And of course, we will be together in Lisbon as well. God willing, all of us together. But most importantly, doing some shows, talking about some of the experiences and bringing in some of our guests that we've had in the previous shows. But anyways, we're out of time again.
Yeah,
Just
we're out of
realizing that when we talk, we can talk forever. So, but thanks be to God, He gives us 30 minutes to remind us, hey, Lord, you know, get to the point, right? But anyways, from all of us at worldyouthday.com and wyDcentral.org, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, God bless you.